Hi guys, this is Samantha K and this is the Samantha K Experience. It is Friday, April 9th, 2021, and this is episode 11 of the podcast. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about the return of Detective Elliot Stabler from Law and Order, SVU. Now, it's been 10 long years since, the show has missed Christopher Meloni. And, to be fair, he's gone on to do other projects. I know he was in True Blood at one point. He had a show called Happy. And he's just been in other things, But finally, after all of this time, a decade later, he returns. So, as you can understand, now he has a new show called Organized Crime, which is also Law and Order based. And when we first see him, he's actually returning, and this is the first time that Olivia Benson has seen him in 10 years. They have not spoken in 10 years. I'm like, can you imagine that? This is a person who you've been like your ride or die, like your best friend and possible maybe potential love interest, and you have not spoken to them in 10 years. That is a decade, like a long ass time of not speaking to each other, not even a text to say, hey, how you doing? Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, anything. So anyway, he comes back because his wife is a victim of a car explosion. So they're in town to surprise Olivia because she's getting this huge ass award. And, unbeknownst to her, so she's shocked as hell to see him come back. And then, come to find out, his wife gets caught in the crossfire. So now he's working as this liaison for Italy. I guess I want to say, was it Interpol? I could be wrong, but I think it was Interpol or something else. So he's working with the organized crime task force. So he's busted a lot of guys over the course of time since he's been away from New York and this part of the globe, actually. So wow, 10 years is a really long time to now finally catch up. And after such a traumatic experience with his wife, so Kathy ends up in the hospital, and he goes to the hospital, make sure she's okay. Or he goes to find, what did they do? Well, first of all, they have a conversation. And basically, I could see how Benson is a little apprehensive because quite frankly, she hasn't heard from this guy in so long. Like, you just come to town out of nowhere. And he said, yeah, it was Kathy's idea to come and surprise you for your award. Apparently Finn knew about it, but no one else really told her anything. So it was kind of like sort of a surprise. Yeah, it was one hell of a surprise, I'll tell you that. So there was a scene that I saw that I thought was kind of awkward and funny at the same time. So Kathy's in the hospital and she's pretty bad shape. So Stabler and Benson are in the room, and she says to him, wow, you guys haven't really seen each other in 10 years or spoken in 10 years. And he said, no, they really haven't spoken in 10 years. So she was like, well, the gang is back together again. So it kind of made you think like, wait, hold up, what's gonna happen now? Because she said that, so now it kind of opened the door of saying, well, is something gonna happen with Kathy? Now, for those of you who haven't watched the show, I'm just gonna tell you that there's some issues that happen, but I'm pretty sure some of you might have seen the trailers by now and watched the first episode and probably watched the episode 2 of Organized Crime tonight or last night. Sorry. I'm thinking for some reason I'm thinking it's Thursday. But anyway, I think that you guys will get to see what actually unfolded throughout the show, so I don't want to completely blow everything. But basically some issues happen, and then it sets the tone for Stabler to go and start tracking down mafia guys, because it's assumed that one of his cases, the reason why this attack happened, because somebody knew he was in New York, and the attack was meant for him and not his wife. So with that being said, he tries to track down this mobster who was played by Chaz Palminteri. His name is Manfredi Sinatra, and I thought that was such an interesting name, because I was like, Manfredi Sinatra, like, really? If that's not some weird, like, it was just a weird combination with the names. But anyway, Stabler has a moment where he wrote a letter to Olivia stating everything that how he felt, and he told her that, you know, if you want to read it, you don't want to read it, it's up to you entirely. But then when she goes to his apartment building to try to talk to him later on, I believe this is now on the organized crime episode, he's kind of more standoffish and a little bit more put off, and kind of doesn't want to be dealing with her at that moment, because some major stuff had went down with Manfredi Sinatra. So he's kind of like on edge, so he's trying to keep his distance from her. So it kind of made her feel like, well, how can you tell me that you care and you worry about my feelings and stuff, and there's so many things you want to say, but when I want to address it, you don't got the time for me. So I could kind of feel like she wants to say something like that, but you could get the vibe like, listen, this is not fair to her, because you just popped back into her life, so to speak, and now everything, I understand the circumstances, but you kind of like now making her feel like, you know, she's not important enough to be honest with. So I think Olivia is tough, so she will probably feel like, you know what, Elliot, listen, you do what you got to do, and when you're ready, you could probably come talk to me. So at this one point where Finn was sitting down with him, and he's just giving him a rundown of what's been going on since he's missed the past 10 years. So everybody's like, oh, okay, so great. You know, he says he's surprised that Olivia has a child and who's the dad, and he was like, well, you're gonna have to ask her, and things of that nature. So it was one of those things that it was like, you really haven't thought to call her in 10 years? But his response was like, well, if he had spoken to her, he was afraid that he was going to stay, that she was going to make him want to stay with the unit. And since he left the way that he did, it was kind of like you gave her no choice but to accept your decision without any possibility of changing your mind or asking you why you chose to leave. So when he decided to cut all communication, it was just kind of like, wow, like you didn't give her an option to deal with it the way as two adults should talk things out. So I think that there should be a little bit more to dive in there with that. So I always liked their relationship because it could be considered such a good friendship because they know each other so well. And at that, Mariska Hargitay and Christopher Meloni play off each other so well. It's like watching those two, you would swear that they were still working together these past 10 years and he never left. It's like their emotions and reactions to things is just so on point. And also that underlying feeling like, hey, you know, will they, won't they? Because I think in the past the show might have teased a possibility of the two of them getting together, but because he was married and whatever, and he was going through whatever he was dealing with, I think they never really went that far. But then again, like I said, I have not seen a lot of the episodes, so bear with me. I know it's hard to kind of review stuff and not see everything, but it's just that I particularly kind of was like, you know what, let me feel around a bit and see if what I think is true or not. But yeah, I think that their relationship it gives you an idea that they're so close, that they know each other so well, like I said before. But there's that feeling like there could be more there, like a love that was, I don't know if it was that he was in love with her or she was in love with him, but because of their situation, because he was in a relationship, he was married with kids, I don't think that they felt it was the right thing to do, even though it seemed like he did love his wife, and it didn't come off like, to me, like it's so much of a marriage of convenience, but because of the fact that he genuinely does love his wife and he doesn't want to ruin what he has or ruin what he has with Liv. So I think that's where the problem resonates within Stabler. But yeah, I think Stabler really and truly is a good character. I think when he goes to interrogate one of the suspects in the bombing, and earlier on in the SVU portion of the two-parter, like you start seeing him losing his patience. He starts rolling up his sleeves, and it was like classic Elliot all over again. It's like this was the Elliot that everybody missed for so many years, because he was rough, and Liv told him, like, listen, things change now. We don't do that type of shit anymore. We don't rough up suspects. We don't get aggressive with them. We don't, try to make things unbearable for people anymore. We try to get the confession, without, strong arming people pretty much, or damn near threatening them. So he had to fall back. So he realized this is not his wheelhouse anymore. Things changed in the 10 years since he's been gone, and there's new leadership. Cragen is no longer there. She is now captain of the squad, and rightfully deserving so. But it was just the fact that he can't go about the same tactics like he would normally would if he was just a regular NYPD officer, detective, like he was before, when they were both partners back in the day. So you got to fall back a little bit and mind his neck. So there's that level of conflict between the two of them. And it's just like, there's so much words to be said, but yet just them looking at each other, it's like them having a whole conversation. Like the way he look at her or she'll look at him, it's just like they will talk through each other's eyes, like look in each other's eyes, and they will just have the whole conversation. Like everything is said within just staring at each other. I think the words are just an add-on just for the audience's benefit, but overall, I just think that they did a really good job of bringing him back, and it was really exciting. I know a lot of people were very excited about the return of Chris and his character, and it was a long time coming. I know that he had wanted to go and do other things, and he was allowed to do those things, so I think he felt that it was time for him to come back to the Law and Order family. Now, organized crime, I like it. I think I could see myself watching it, and I gotta be biased for a minute, guys. Now, I have to tell you, one of my favorite actors, aside from Christopher Meloni, is on organized crime. Dylan McDermott is, oh my God. I've watched Dylan McDermott since he was in The Practice in the 90s. Now, I love Dylan McDermott. I think that he's so good. And I think he's like one of those guys that he gets better with age. So maybe it's so weird that one day he just manages to hear this podcast. But anyway, no, but seriously, all jokes aside, I feel like he gets better with age. there's a couple of shows that he's done, a few things that he's done since The Practice, obviously. He's done Hostages, and he's done American Horror Story. I think it was in the first season. Those things are good, but I feel like he's found something with Law and Order, Organized Crime. It's something about the way how he approaches this character, which he kind of did give me. I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and I said that he gave me Colin Farrell vibes when how Colin Farrell was in the movie Ava with Jessica Chastain. Like, the vibes that I was getting off of him, it felt kind of like that. You know, he's smooth, calculating, and he could rock a hell out of a turtleneck. I tell you that. Like, he was just, I said, damn, this is Dylan McDermott. Like, I'm thinking he a police officer. He's, you know, he's gonna be working in organized crime with Stabler, and then he's turning out to be the villain in this. Like, I'm like, what? I said, okay, I'm here for it. I'll watch it, because, you know, these guys are really good at what they do. So I can't wait. Like, I can't wait to see more of Law and Order, Organized Crime, because I always was fascinated with the way how the mob moves. Like, just the system of it alone was just intriguing to me. Not to say that the lifestyle is for me, because I know I'm not part of that lifestyle, but it was just to see how everything is broken down, piece by piece, and how the system of the mob works. So when I saw that they were going to be doing a show based on the mob, I was like, okay, I'm here for it. You know, we've done everything else, we might as well do mob. But yeah, I think that the show has really great potential. I just hope that if it could do about maybe 5 years or so, I think it'll be good, because I don't see the guys spending like 22 years like SVU, because SVU has been going on for a long time, since like the mid 90s, or, you know, so I don't really see how organized crime will stay on for like 10 years, because those guys will be like in their 70s by the time, you know, the show might end. So I'm not gonna like hold that to them, but I think the show has good potential. I hope that it stays on for at least a good 5 years or so. I'm happy that Stabler came back. I'm happy that they picked a good guy to play the villain, and it wasn't like, oh, you know, his dad was the main guy, but you could see where this was going to go, and it was going to go really fast. So I'm just hype. Can't say it enough that this show is a new Law and Order show. And I think we were missing a lot of Law and Order based stuff, especially from the original series that had like Jerry Orbach and a few others in it. So I think that was what, you know, we were lacking. But yeah, I'm hyped. I'm glad Stabler is back. Listen, if you guys haven't watched that episode, catch it on Peacock. Peacock has the first episode and should have the second episode of Organized Crime. If you want to see him come back on Law and Order SVU, it is season 22, episode 10, I believe. That's the episode season and number. So remember, 22, 10, and then his show is episode 1, season 1 of Organized Crime. Now, with that being said, guys, thank you for joining me on another lovely episode of the Samantha K Experience. I'm your host, Samantha K, and I'll be seeing you soon. But before I go, guys, I have an upcoming episode 12, 1-2. We're going to be talking about Lore Olympus Part 2. Abby and I have a sit down again, and we met at the end of March to discuss the show in depth a little bit more. We sat down in a nice restaurant called I think Cafe Chili in Brooklyn, and you're gonna hear us talk, and you might think where something might be off with us, but I admit that we had a little, a lot of food and some beverages. So you might hear me a little bit too relaxed, which is a good thing. But you guys don't want to miss that upcoming episode. And before we go, I don't like ending on the show with a sad note, but today, unfortunately, we lost a really, really, really great influence in the rap game today. Earl Simmons, who went by the name DMX, passed away at the age of 50 today, due to being in a vegetative state for a few days. And I guess because of his tests, there was no brain activity, and his family decided to just take him off of life support earlier today. I grew up essentially listening to DMX. I know that, as a young girl, and maybe in my late teens, maybe early 20s, I probably had no business listening to him, but D was one of those rappers that, he brought a lot of spiritual stuff in his words. He had a lot of prayers on his albums that he had. A few of his songs talk about, quote scripture. And don't get me wrong, his stuff ain't for the kids, but it could be quite graphic. But that was X. He spoke from the heart. He rapped from the heart, and I can't think of one of he's like one of the greatest rappers to ever do it. I mean, we always say who's the GOAT, and put these guys on a pedestal and whatnot, but he was definitely one of those good guys, man. Like, he was in the rap game for all of those years, and he had his troubles, but you know what, it don't even matter now. It's just the fact that I hope that he found peace that maybe he's been looking for all that time. And my heart just goes out to his family, especially his kids, during this difficult time, because we're really in a tough spot right now, and just keep losing people left and right. It's too much to bear. But I just want to give a special shout out to X, man, because honestly, you are so inspirational, and all around on social media, there's been so many people, just talking about them meeting him for the first time, and him, just sitting down, chilling, talking and stuff, and then always with the freestyle, and he was just a really likable dude, like he was chill, so it's gonna be a huge loss. Rap it evolves, but you got these guys that some of these older veterans, they could still spit, but sometimes they're not really recognized for the work that they do. But X, man, listen, we love you, we're gonna miss you, and just rest in peace, bro. And I'm out.